Alanis Morissette had a hit song in the 90s that was supposed to be about irony. It was called Ironic. Rain on your wedding day, free ride when you've already paid. Those of a certain age know how it goes. While some people questioned the validity of irony in her examples, I heard this song recently and it reminded me of an ironic thing that happens to people with sleep issues. When just as you're getting to bed, your mind starts racing and keeps you up. You're exhausted, feeling sleepy, ready to call it a night. Yet that's when your brain decides, I want to solve all the problems. I want to contemplate all the things. I want to find out the square root of zinc. Why does this happen? Well, on this topic, hopefully you'll hear some advice that you just can take on this episode of The Why Behind Your Z's. Welcome to the Why Behind Your Z's podcast, the show that helps you maximize your sleep one night at a time. Brought to you by sleepyoudeserve.com. Thank you for listening. I am your host, Paul Bright, certified sleep science coach and United States Air Force veteran. And today's topic is about why your mind starts racing when you go to bed. Why, instead of falling asleep because you're tired, you've been thinking all day about all kinds of other stuff, you've been solving everybody else's problems, you're finally ready to put everything to rest, and you're laying in bed, and within 5 minutes, your mind starts racing about all kinds of topics. What is keeping you up? That's what we're going to talk about today. And there are two main reasons that I feel like people end up staying up instead of going to sleep when they're ready to go to sleep. And it all has to do with brain waves and emotions. Let's talk about the brain waves first. A brain wave is an electrical oscillation that occurs in your mind due to neuron activity. Now, neurons are your brain cells, and the higher intensity and frequency the brain wave, likely the higher activity and intensity your neurons are engaging in. So, for example, if you are doing some high processing, high thinking, working, some complicated video games, those are likely going to produce beta waves. That's pretty high functioning activity happening there. If you're going through anxious activity, trying to quickly solve a problem, trying to get out of fight or flight, you might be producing gamma waves, which are very intense and go very fast. Alpha wave activity is that idle type of activity where your brain is active, but it's not doing a lot of high thinking. It's kind of like, putting your brain in neutral after it's been in drive. Then there are theta waves, which are very low in frequency and oscillation. They are what's occurring when you are in deep meditation or you're just about to go to sleep. Your brain is super relaxed. And then delta wave activity is very low, and it doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen when you are in good sleep. So if you can get delta wave activity happening in your brain, that means you are getting some good sleep. So what does this have to do with keeping you up at night? Well, what you need to consider is what is happening before you decide to go to bed. Are you engaging in high brainwave activities till you're at the point of exhaustion and then decide to call it a night? So if you've been doing a lot of high beta activities till 9:57 and you're just feeling that sleep hit on and you decide, all right, you know what? At 10 o'clock, I'm going to bed. So you stop everything at 9:57. You turn off the lights, you throw your clothes off, you just get in your sheets and you lay there. And you might start snoozing for a little bit. You might toss and turn, you keep your eyes closed. And then that 11 o'clock hour hits. And you've been laying there and you didn't even realize you were laying there for 50 minutes, 60 minutes, not really falling asleep. And you start thinking even more. Because what's happened that first hour is you've been thinking about a lot of things here and there, just random stuff. And then that hour passes and you're like, why am I still awake? Then you start processing those things you were doing right before you went to bed. All those beta wave activities, because you stopped them at 9:57, decided at 10:01, I'm going to go to bed. It doesn't work very well that way. That's one reason why you could be up, is because you still have too much high brainwave activity happening in your head as you decided to go to sleep. Now, about that emotional activity. There's an old saying I grew up with, which was, nothing good ever happens after midnight. And it didn't mean you couldn't have fun or you couldn't have some productive days. But usually if you've been around and you're out and about in your younger years and it's midnight, no good comes of that. Well, that may be kind of a funny saying, but it is a little bit true, as recent studies have shown, when it comes to emotional regulation. There are some indications that if your mind is awake at midnight and you are alone, you are likely going to engage in negative emotional thoughts. In the studies I found, which I'll link into the show notes, there were some interesting things that they discovered. One element was rewards processing. Now, most rewards processing happens during the day, and rewards processing helps with survival. If you make some successes, you have a win at the office, you have a win in your favorite game, you wanted to meet up with a friend for dinner or something and it happened, that's likely going to happen during the day and not at night. Another element is when something that has some emotional toughness to it occurs during the day. If you're somebody that's in charge, if you're a leader type person, or you're the person that makes peace with everybody, that is likely where your emotions are going during the day. But have you resolved your own? Have you unpacked your own emotions, any negative thoughts that you might have had during the day? If you didn't unpack them during the day, it tends to happen at night. And now that piece I can sort of identify with, because I used to work in community mental health. I had done some therapy work with children in foster care, children in the adoptive services. I did a lot of case management with homeless people and did a lot of both with homeless veterans. And I did this for a number of years. I would say about 6 or 7 years, if you don't count my internship hours. And there was a lot of emotional processing, a lot of fires to put out, a lot of regulation that happened all day long. And then I had my family, which was fine. That's, I'm prepared for that. But when it would get to about 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, and I'd start to put myself to bed, it was like midnight. I start wondering, wow, the homeless guy that I placed, I hope he's safe, or, oh man, I hope those kids are in a good foster home. I'm not sure about that one that I saw. And those thoughts would keep me up at night. And it was tough. It was very tough. Yet there are some solutions to helping alleviate that I discovered along the way, and we'll talk about in a minute. Another element that can lead to this emotional thinking after midnight is the vices. People tend to drink more. People tend to use more substances at night. And a lot of times those are depressants. They're not things that are trying to keep you up and happy. These are depressants, especially people who have been using alcohol to help themselves go to sleep. You add that depressant chemical into your system after not regulating your emotions during the day or being able to unpack them properly. And then you have that time at night where you're alone and your brain starts to stick into that negative thinking. That can keep you up. All these elements combined together can keep you up at night. So now we have two things that could be going on. Your brain firing activity happening too close to bedtime, and then the unregulation of emotions happening during the day deciding to take place at night. What can you do to help yourself alleviate of these two elements so that you can sleep better? We're going to talk about that after the break.
Hi, this is Jen.
And I am Mira.
And we are Creative Copes Podcast.
Yep, we're just two friends who decided we had something to share with the world, and at the same time, try to end the stigma and raise awareness about how it is to live with chronic
and mental illness. We are here to share our ways of creatively coping trying to break free from the minefield of survival mode and to start living fully.
We already have some creative coping strategies in our arsenal.
But on this journey, we will discover many more ways for us all, audience included, to deal with the struggles that come with dynamic and invisible disabilities, whether they be physical or mental.
We hope to bring some fun moments and open conversations. Please join us.
Love and light.
Beautiful humans. Okay, bye.
Mwah.
So, how do you work your mind into going to sleep and staying asleep when it's full of racing thoughts, be they problem solving or issues with emotional regulation? In general, what I've found and discovered through research and my own experiences are there are 2 steps you can take. Downshift, then distract. Downshift, and then distract. Downshifting is planning time to slow your brain down, ideally going from those high beta wave activities to more idle alpha wave activities for at least an hour before you decide to go to sleep will help you slow the mind down enough to be ready for sleep. What can that look like? All right, so we said, beta wave activities include work, problem solving at the home, like if you decided, from 9 to 10, I'm going to pay all the bills. That's sort of a beta wave activity. High level video games, even the fun stuff that's high intense, and even homework. These are the activities that get your mind going and produce the most electricity activities in your brains. You need to stop these type of activities an hour before bed and start engaging in the alpha ones. The ones that are more idle thinking. They keep your brain awake, but not such high electricity going on in there. These are things like folding laundry, listening to relaxing music, mindless television. I like to watch old sitcoms sometimes, light reading, podcasts that won't get your mind going. I'm speaking to you true crime podcast listeners. And even general hygiene, brushing your teeth and flossing and taking a nice relaxing bath. These are alpha wave activities. This is a great thing to engage in an hour before you go to bed, because now you are downshifting. When you're downshifting from beta to alpha and you start to feel sleepy, you will fall asleep better because your mind is now out of that high thinking mode. From here, you need to engage in that second step. You need to distract. Sometimes that dead quiet sleep is too quiet for your mind. You can start keying into sounds you wouldn't normally hear, like the fridge on the other side of the house, or people across the street talking, or someone in another room. If you can distract with light instrumental music or a white noise maker or a semi-boring podcast, you don't give your mind a chance to rev up again and keep you awake. Downshift and distract to encourage your racing mind to sleep. And for that emotional thinking, number 1 is try to go to bed before midnight. But number 2 is if you have those tough emotional moments during the day, if you've got some feelings that are coming up and you decide, I got to stuff them away because I got to get back to work. I got to stuff them away because I don't want somebody to see it. You need to find places to unpack that. Maybe you need 5 minutes in your car to vent, to scream, to cry. Maybe you need somebody that you can rely on to talk to. Maybe you need to just talk to yourself. That was one thing that was helping me. When I would start to come back from my trips, I would talk about that case out loud in the car because it was kind of a commute. California traffic was really bad. Sometimes I'd be crying. It didn't matter to me. As long as I was able to get those emotions out and settled and sorted, it was helpful. Even my coworkers, we would have venting sessions because we were dealing with the same things. And yeah, we would cry and scream and do what we need to do to release those emotions so that we can go home and say, okay, we've dealt with it. We've dealt with it. And that made it a lot easier for me to go to sleep at night. Downshift and distract to encourage your racing mind to sleep. Engage in those troublesome emotions throughout the day. Do what you can to do that so that you don't have to worry about them after midnight, and go to bed before midnight. If you can do these things, you can break the irony of being the most awake when you are ready for bed and start to get that sleep that you deserve. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Why Behind Your Z's. For more information and additional advice on how to help you get the sleep that you deserve, check the show notes for our email subscriber list. You can also visit our website, sleepyoudeserve.com.